Well, today I'm talking about the unspoken word. Luckily, we're not a Quaker meeting. They do that extremely well. But today, I want to tell you something that just happened to me because I'm really quite excited about it. I realized that there were some thoughts that I had in my mind that were not for my highest good. And the thought was, I never win anything. I put my name in here, that drawing, this drawing, and I never win anything. And this was what my mind always said. No point in doing this, because I never win anything. Well, about a few months ago, I came into an awareness that this was going on in me. And I thought, well, that's not good. I know better than that. So I started affirming, I always win. Whatever I do, I win. And I thought, whatever I put my name into, I win. And I just kept affirming that to myself. I didn't say it out loud to anyone. I just affirmed it to myself because I knew that what I was doing was, holding things away from me. And I certainly didn't want to do that. So yesterday, I came to the Centered Wellness open house, which was very, very nice, by the way. And as I was going out the door, someone says, buy a 50-50 raffle ticket. You have to get one. And my first impression was, oh, I'm in a hurry. I have another thing to go to. And but I thought, no, I'm going to support, even if it's only $1. And so I bought a ticket. Last night, Greg called me up and he said, guess what? You won. How much was it, Greg?
$23.
$23. I tell you what, this stuff works. We just don't realize that we've got something really special here. It works. It works. So, of course, today I am talking about words unspoken. Words that you shouldn't say. You should never say. And words that you shouldn't think either. But there are a few words that you should always say, and we're going to talk about that. So let's start off today with a word from James 4:11. Don't speak evil against each other, my dear brothers and sisters. If you criticize each other and condemn each other, then you are criticizing and condemning God's law. Our vision is increasing, and we see that opportunity knocks not only once, but many times. And it continues. But you are not a judge who can decide whether the law is right or wrong. Your job is to obey it. Oftentimes when we see these laws and we learn these laws, we think, I don't know if I agree with that. I'm not sure that that's really true. And so we look at it, but you know what? We're always accountable to the law, whether we believe it or not. So we might as well act as if we do believe it and see what happens. We are warned to be careful about what we say. And well, we should be, because once we know the truth, once we've heard it, we are held accountable. Up until then, it's kind of like there's sort of a grace involved. But once we know the law and we break it with our thoughts or our words, we find that we are held accountable. We are warned not to say certain things that could produce negative results. And sometimes we think that we should just not even open our mouth at all. I've felt that way on occasion. Have you? When, you just keep putting your foot in your mouth over and over again, and you think, I just shouldn't say anything. But that's really not the problem. The problem is that it doesn't start with your mouth. It starts in your heart. And so what we know about what comes out of our mouth is that whatever is in our heart is what's going to come out. So let's be very, very careful about what we put in our hearts. And You know, it exits out through our mouth into the world, and it makes a difference. So how do you know when to speak and not to speak? We begin to rise above limitation of all sorts when we refuse to become a doubter. One of the things that we really want to look at in our life is how much of a doubter are we? How many of you know someone who speaks of doubt all of the time? They speak negatively. They think that anything that happens to them is going to be negative. And you notice that for them it is. It is negative for them. And so as you listen to what they're saying, it's like, you know, you kind of want to move away because you really don't want that sinking into your heart. And so when we have these doubts, and if we have any doubts, we can ask ourselves some questions. And the questions that we ask is, does doubt or hope enable you to do your work better? Have you noticed that if you're living in doubt, if you're living in a negative place, that you do not function as well as when you're in a very positive place? When you're feeling really good about what's going on around you, you find that, wow, you know, living in hope is way better than living in doubt. And then you can ask yourself, which one of these makes me happier? You know, you could say, well, it's a fact that these things are happening. Yes, it's a fact. But would you rather believe that and be miserable? Or would you rather, you know that things are going to be good and be happy? It's really a choice. It's your choice. And you can make that choice at any time. I mean, even in the midst of a really miserable situation, you can make that choice. And which type of person would you rather be, a doubter or one who is hopeful? I think you would want to be the hopeful person. The hopeful person usually has a lot of confidence. And don't you like being around people who have confidence? It just kind of rubs off, doesn't it? Just makes you feel good inside. And then all of a sudden, you find that you're feeling more confident. You're feeling a lot more confident. And everything that you do seems to really happen for you. And this doesn't come from words. This comes from action of being confident. And you can't talk confidence. Well, you can, but it's really much more powerful if you are being confident. Because people around you pick up the vibe that you are confident. And as they pick up that vibe, they realize that something is going on in you that they really want. And they begin to emulate what you are doing. And have you noticed that those people who just exude that kind of confidence are not surprised when success comes as a direct result of their confident work? Have you noticed that? Have you noticed that, they just sort of like take success in their stride? It's like, well, of course. And I think we all want to be like that. We all want to feel that success within us. We want to have that self-confidence in ourselves that we can use. And what a great thing hope is. We can always say something good, no matter what the situation would be. And we do this by first calling upon the Christ within. That spirit that is within each one of us, that is a very positive influence. We talked about it during the fall program. We called it the eye of the storm, moving to that quiet center, moving to that place where there is no need to say anything which will hurt the feelings of the other person or cause disharmony in our affairs. And we cannot afford to offend anyone in our life. You might think some of those people deserve it. But we really can't. We really can't. We need everyone. And if we really look very, very closely, we will find that that person is there to teach us a lesson. And we will also find that as we continue on this path, we find that there is good everywhere. Good everywhere. And we can use that with everyone we meet as well. We need the friendship of everyone, and everyone who is our friend is our helper. We've been told, he that despises his neighbor is void of wisdom, but a person of understanding holds his peace. Many blessings have been taken away and driven away by nasty words or hasty words. There is some good advice that is found in the 17th chapter, verse 27 of Proverbs. He that spares his words has knowledge, and he that is of a cool spirit is a person of understanding. Even a fool, when he or she holds their peace, is counted wise. I love the way Mark Twain said it. It is better to remain silent and be thought of as a fool than to speak and remove all doubt. Thank you, Greg. I love that. I thought, that's it. That's it. With 4 children and 2 stepchildren, there was always an opportunity for me to hold my peace. Because there was always something going on, between at least 2 of them. And I realized very, very early on that if I did the tendency that I had to yell, that I would soon not be able to speak because I would be too hoarse. So I developed a look that I would give my children when it was like, okay, enough is enough. And they came to learn that look, and they knew that if they didn't pay attention to the look, that there was something else that would follow. And as a result of that, I very seldom ever had to do what was to follow, because I would give them the look, and they thought, uh-oh, mom's had it. She's not going any farther on this one. I think we just better disappear. But how do we ask a person? We might ask ourselves, actually, how do we do this sometimes? Sometimes we're forced to do it. But sometimes we say, how is it that we can keep our peace when things are going so wrong? How can we do that? And this is what Jeremiah answered to such a question. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusts in you. Isaiah also said this, in quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Take care of your thoughts when you are alone. Take care of your words when you are with people. I really like that saying. Take care of your thoughts when you are alone, and take care of your words when you are with people. And Psalms 141:3 says, set a guard, O Lord, over my mouth. Keep watch over the doors of my lips. Or perhaps even more importantly, watch over your heart with all diligence, for from it flow the springs of life. Also from Proverbs 4:23. These are the things that we want to keep a close watch on. We can't afford to do otherwise, at least not if we want to have a life that is not filled with grief. It speaks of springs of life in Proverbs. And I was thinking about springs that flow forth from the earth, from deep within, and how occasionally, how these springs are like our hearts, which were pure in the beginning, and how toxic waste gets dumped into many of these streams and beautiful rivers that we have, and we've kind of cleaned that up a little bit, but we still have a problem with it. And I thought about how all of the water from where it's dumped all the way is contaminated. It's all contaminated. And that's exactly what happens with us. When our hearts were pure in the very beginning, there was no toxic waste that was flowing from our hearts. We were pure, we were innocent, we were honest. And yet, throughout our life, this has been contaminated. A contamination has taken place. People have said things to us, hurt us. Many things have happened, whereas we didn't even realize it at the time. And I was thinking about my friend Janie, who was my little friend that lived across the street. And we were children together, and we played together. And Janie lived in a house that had like 5 concrete steps up to the porch. And every time she would come out the door to go down the steps, her grandmother would shout, "Janie, don't fall." And then you'd hear Janie cry because she would fall. And I didn't realize it at the time. I thought, well, Grandma loves Janie. And yet, as I think about it now, I think, you know what? Janie's subconscious mind did not hear don't. All Janie heard was fall. And so she probably fell more often than she might have. I mean, all children fall, of course, but Grandma did not know that she might have had some influence on what was happening with Janie, because that would have been the last thing on her mind, because she really loved her. And so Grandma spoke out of love, but it might have been better if she'd said nothing at all. And when we don't know better, we often say things that we should not. We also criticize people sometimes. And even if we don't say it out loud, we are all connected, we are all one. And when we do this, we are contaminating our hearts. Ecclesiastes 10:20 says, "Don't criticize the king, even silently, and don't criticize the rich, even in the privacy of your bedroom." And this passage warns us not to criticize others, even in silence or privacy. And we've always kind of thought it was really okay if we thought these things but didn't say them out loud. Not true. Not true. You're held accountable for those thoughts, whether they come out of your mouth or not. And because that behavior is corrosive to your heart, it will eventually become known no matter how much we think it won't. And you've probably had that happen on occasion. I have. We must only allow good treasure to build up in our hearts so that we are full to overflowing. When people talk to us, they may say things that are not from God. For example, mean-spirited comments. We've all had a mean-spirited comment said to us at one time or another. Or unhelpful criticism. This is for your own good. We know better than that. And these are things that you cannot let enter into your heart. You have to just let them go. Say, that person doesn't know what they're talking about. They don't know what's in my heart or who I am. And keep a protective lid on your hearts and don't let those negative things in. Only build good treasure. Good treasure is built by the positive things that you take into your heart, that you ponder. When we talk about the way we speak, we usually assume we're only talking about our words. But really, we communicate in many ways. And 3 of them are: we communicate with our words, we communicate with the gestures and our body language, and we communicate with our spirit. And when we consider these 3 forms of communication, which do you think is actually the most important? Spirit. I'm hearing somebody whispering spirit. That's right. We consider probably the most important, it's the spirit. And even if your words are fairly straightforward, the spirit in which you say them can have all kinds of different effects. And you know that that's true too. You've had someone say something to you that should have been a compliment, but the way they said it, you knew it wasn't. Ooh. Yeah. And when it's done that way, it really cuts. And so you have to be really careful, because these words that we speak have an impact on the person that we are speaking to. They have an impact. So watch your heart with diligence, and just, make sure that the words you say and will be overwritten by your spirit or attitude. A spirit of anger or frustration, disgust, or distress will always overshadow the words that we use. If I have a jealous heart, it will always come out. People often blame others for these things, saying, well, he made me angry because he did this. Or, she is causing me stress because of that. And we all know the truth, that these things are not caused by outside factors. It's all from within each one of us. It's important to remember, blaming others will rob you of the power it takes to change. I love that statement. Blaming others will rob you of the power it takes to change. It takes energy and power to change your life. And if you're blaming everyone else on the problems that you have, you won't have the energy or the power to change. Lon Chaney was a great communicator. Do y'all remember Lon Chaney? Anybody? I mean, you young people probably won't. He was even almost before my age. He was a sensitive actor who could portray any character so convincingly, because he had a father and a mother who were unable to speak or to hear. They were both unable to speak or to hear. And when the boy was in the 4th grade, his mother became very, very ill, and he had to leave school in 4th grade to nurse his mother, who had become an invalid. And rheumatism had stilled her hands so that she could no longer talk with them. Young Lon cared for her deeply and devotedly. And he had only the expressions of his face, hands, and eyes with which to make her understand him. And so he used those things to be able to communicate with her on a daily basis. And he had to read her hands, her face, and eyes to be able to understand her and what her needs were. Her hands were horribly crippled, so she couldn't make the sign language anymore, but she could express some things with them. And so that is what happened with him. That mutual love and understanding that they shared was totally and beautifully eloquent. It was a beautiful thing to see. And it was the experience that later helped make Lon Chaney a master of pantomime and a great and understanding actor. The things that we sometimes term to be not good in our lives often turn out to be our greatest gifts. And he used those gifts. We can all learn to do these things to a certain extent, to really pay attention, to really look at people in the eyes and see what it is they're feeling, what they're trying to really say without words, so that we really know a person's heart. So the first thing that we need to remember in controlling what comes out of our mouths is to build good treasure in our heart, and to build good treasure in our hearts is because out of a good heart, only good things can come. And so we begin to build good things. Good things. When you're perplexed, though, or confused, and you don't know what to do, what is the second thing that we need to do? I believe it is to learn to ponder, to take some time before you speak, before you do anything, before you even think, is to ponder what you think you've heard. And begin to remember the truth principles that you know and apply them to what has just happened. From there, you can gain a greater perspective to what is going on and not have these anger-producing or resentment-producing feelings that can come to us very, very quickly. You know, often we misunderstand what someone has said or done. But if we ponder them for a while, sometimes we can see them differently. And that produces character. It produces character in us. And when you ponder it, you can rise above the things, even when you're confused. Consider Mary when she got the word from the angel Gabriel. You know, the salutation that he gave her. And she was very perplexed by this statement. She said, why did he say this to us? What was this salutation all about anyway? And by pondering these things, Mary was able to rise above her confusion, because it was a confusing message. But Mary treasured all of these things, pondering them in her heart. Pondering them in our heart. We all must take things into our hearts and ponder them, mixing them with thoughts of faith and truth, so that we can neutralize some of the things that dwell in our hearts that are not for our highest good. We can make changes, and we can rise above the things that are going on in our life. Tomorrow is Veterans Day, and right now there are many women and men dealing with spouses in the armed services, and maybe many of you have seen specials on this. They've been, they run things on television about, yes, we are grateful for the service of those who are overseas, but we are also in awe of the people who are left here to deal with the things that they deal with. They experience emotional stress. They're maybe taking care of children, working and volunteering, all of the things that they have to do every day just as we do, along with that additional stress that's going on with the loved ones overseas. And when one person was asked how they dealt with it all, the reply was, oh, you just have to rise above all of the little daily emergencies and go straight ahead. That takes courage. It takes tremendous courage. And so we honor not only those in the service today, but also those who were left at home to carry on. We take our challenges to a higher level, and it turns ordeals into adventures. Do you remember an ordeal in your life that you actually got through pretty much unscathed? And do you remember how in doing so, what happened to you became an adventure that you were proud of when it was done? That you had actually come through something that was very, very, maybe even life-threatening. And yet you came through, and it became an adventure. Some words should never be spoken, and some always should be. We must guard our words by guarding our hearts, and only build up good treasure from where all of our words originate. We need to do this, and we need to do it all of the time, not forget and just do it occasionally. And when we are angry, hurt, or confused, we need to ponder all of these things with faith and with love, and to change the thoughts and the feelings to hope and courage. Never leave love unspoken, because everyone needs love. Everyone wears a sign that says, "Please tell me that I'm valuable today." We all need to hear that. Each one of us. Everyone needs love, everyone needs help, and everyone needs to feel appreciated. Whenever we have the chance, we need to speak love to one another. And we can all give love freely. It's really easy, because our very being is love. And there is more than enough love to change the world for the better. And I see each one of you doing that every day. By sharing your love, you are raising the consciousness of the world. And you are blessed because of it. God bless you. And so it is. Thank you.